you and food. But don't worry, I'm not going to speak for 8 hours. I do want to join Joaquin and Henry and Ben Ray in thanking Hugo and Marcy for opening their home, and Carlo as well for your hospitality today. Your beautiful words at the beginning, Hugo, about who we are as a people and how we should respect each other and civility were just so inspiring and really lift us all up to a better place. And that's where this discussion should be. So let's thank Hugo and Marcia and Carlo again for their hospitality. It's an honor to be here with each and every one of you. Some friends over the years, some ever-widening circle of friends that Hugo had imposed upon to join us, happily invited to join us today, asked to join us today. And I too want to acknowledge Charlie Gonzalez. I served with his father, who was the best, really, member of Congress that I ever served with. I can say that without any question. And of course, Charlie, in his footsteps, and made his own mark, but Henry Gonzalez is an icon in the Congress of the United States. Thank any of you who had a role in sending him to Congress. And now and of course, Charlie has been acknowledged, and I love serving with him. Thank you for honoring us with your presence. And now Joaquin is in that seat, and he makes his own mark about the values of our country and the oath we take to protect and defend our country on the Intelligence Committee, showing our ideals to the world on the Foreign Affairs Committee, a new generation of leadership there, an example of the American dream, as many of you are, and his mother Rose, I mean, we're all in awe of what she did and the contribution of Joaquin and his brother, but today we're focusing on Joaquin. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. When you hear about Charlie, and I loved serving with Ciro, who's my dear, dear friend, please give him my regards and thank you for being with us, Mr. Commissioner. You heard so much from our dear colleague, Henry Cuellar, but when Joaquin spoke, and when Henry spoke, and when Ben Ray spoke, and especially when Hugo spoke, you heard about not issues, but values. But values. What is it that connects us as human beings? And Henry talked about that balance that he brings to the table on the Appropriations Committee, which is very important, which he brings to the Congress. The private sector perspective, knowing the ramifications of our actions, very important, because we want to get the job done for the American people. So Henry, thank you for being so operational. Thank you for bringing balance to our discussion. Thank you for leadership. Now, I just want to say this, and well, I'll just save it for a moment. Ben Ray Lujan, he has the respect, commands the respect of our caucus, because he is values-based, operational. He has a vision about our country, why the election is important. He has a plan. And as somebody said of him the other day, he's a visionary with a plan. If you're a visionary without a plan, it's just a fantasy. It's not a fantasy, it's a vision, and it will be accomplished. Thank you, Ben Ray Lujan. Because I associate myself with the remarks and challenges put forth by our colleagues and by our host, but I do want to just say a couple things to you. And I know I'm standing between you and this beautiful food here. And I am Italian-American, so when there's food, we want to eat, and we do want to before it gets hot or cold, whichever direction it's going in. But let me say this. Today is President's Day. On a number of occasions in the past, I've spent that day in Laredo with Henry Cuellar. And because of that, I have told people throughout the world, but especially in our country, I wish you could see how the Latino community honors our founding president, George Washington and Martha Washington. It is such an inspiration to the nation to see that patriotism, that commitment to our founding fathers and mother, and here in Texas, in Laredo, and they go to great lengths. If you haven't been there, you should go there sometime to see it. It is so inspirational. And Henry is from that. So I'm glad that Christina, his daughter, is here. Ava is here. Carlo is here. The next generation. Because what we do is all about the future. When George Washington was president, our founding father, he said, be sure, labor, work to keep that spark within you that is called conscience, that should dictate everything that we do. He was a great president, and what their founders did was to say, we're going to have a government, a country, a society that is novo order seclorum, a new order for the ages. And it was predicated on the idea that every generation would take responsibility for the next to make the future better. It became known as the American dream. People flocked to our shores, many of your ancestors and many of you. With the hope, these newcomers, with their hope, their determination, their courage, their optimism, American traits, these newcomers make America more American. We see that in Laredo and observing the President's Weekend, but also we see it in the work of people, and Hugo pointed out, these are people who are building America, but not only constructing, but also building in terms of reinforcing our values. Every president in modern time, President Reagan, President George Herbert Walker Bush, President Clinton, President George W. Bush, President Obama, are all advocates, champions, Democrats and Republicans alike, for immigration, until this president. To this president who says the things that he says that are so un-American. Even in his State of the Union address, it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to hear him talk about immigrants to our country. But it's a red meat that he sends to his base. It's just how he keeps his 38% or whatever it is. But not to talk about him. It's not about him. It's about us. It's about you. It's about the future of our country. And this opportunity, Ben Ray said it, we're at a pivotal place. We're at a pivotal place where we can say, we're not spiraling downward in our values. We're going forward in a positive way as our founders intended, with the respect for the dignity and worth of every person in our society, with the recognition that each person is an authentic, original contributor to our children's future. So many times when young people come to Washington, I say, look around, you see monuments, you see statues, you see portraits, you see everything honoring our founders, and that's a good thing. But they would want us to turn back and look forward, because everything they did was about the future. And you are the future. This is the future of America. When I was young and in school, any time we'd have a question in history and political science about what is the diplomatic history of the United States, what were priorities in 19 this or 18 that. You start off by defining what America was at the time, what it was geographically, as we reached across the country, what it was in values in terms of our Constitution, and what it was in terms of our people. And the beautiful diversity that is America, is our strength. And we're just not going to get in any petty fight about this. This is a value. Our dreamers, we fight that fight, not just to help the dreamers, that would be reason enough, but to protect who we are as a country. We are not a country that would do that to our dreamers.